that's the thing I like about Skate 2 as well. I have to say that to not make a pun, but like
Yeah.
that they include a lot of soul music, and my dad
Yeah.
was both a punk rocker and he's really into soul, so that was kind of perfect mix. Like to one moment here, like Sam and Dave, and then Electric Light Orchestra, and then to have like I can't remember any specific punk songs in Skate 2 at the moment, but because most of them were from indie bands, I remember. Like they were kind of like very unknown bands. They had a lot, but they had a few of classic ones here and there, and like that was just crazy to kind of have that in a video game. Because
Yeah.
Tony Hawk never had any soul music in it, you know, and that's kind of thing that Skate did really well.
That's very true, actually. Yeah, that's actually completely true. Like, you know, the moments in Skate 2, exactly how you're saying, it was just great to hear all the soul music, and then the next, it was Possessed to Skate by Suicidal Tendencies, and it was just crazy.
Yeah, that's one. Yeah, that's one of them. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just crazy to hear stuff like that, and then all the indie music they had on there as well. Like I remember they had this song called Collarbone by who was it? I think the group was called Fujima and Miyagi. And yeah, it was just a great soundtrack, like you're saying. But back to
most of the songs aren't even on Spotify, so it's kind of a shame. There's a lot of them that were so good.
Yeah, yeah. But kind of back to my original point. I feel like once Skate 2 came out, you know, once the Tony Hawk series saw that reception, I feel like that was the time to go against Skate 2 for them to make a Tony Hawk Pro Skater 5.
Right. Oh, really? Yeah.
But not the way that they made, obviously, Pro Skater 5. And this is obviously like, you know, a hypothetical. But I feel like that would have been the time to make the Pro Skater 5 that everybody wanted. You know, like, because like Pro Skater 4, I feel like the way, like how you're saying, like with all the freedom that it has, you know, like it has all the set goals. You go through them, and then it gives you all the pro goals. And then there's all the other bonus stuff, and then even the arcade games, and even all the stuff in between. There's you know, when you go up to a pedestrian to do a goal, all the pedestrians have like their own like personalities.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
And I feel like in the remakes that you know Robomoto did, and I like that Robomoto, you know, they actually had an effort to try and bring the series back, and I really appreciate them for that. But I think in all the games that they had, they were just kind of missing that personality, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I agreed. I mean, that's something that was very Neversoft that I guess they can really capture, because that whole thing was kind of, I mean, almost all the voice actors in the first 3 games are the people at Neversoft. Yeah. Like they don't have any voice actors for that. I mean, Ralph, I don't know if you remember a cab driver in the New York level who goes like, in Tony Hawk 2, who's like, "You motherfucker, that's Ralph," actually, the producer of Tony Hawk film. So like, yeah, so, you know, but I agree. Yeah, I guess, I don't know. I guess they were just working with something much bigger that they couldn't really take those risks the same way that Neversoft did. I guess that's my theory, but, you know, I could be wrong, but I do definitely get the sense that because it was originally such a low budget game, and they were just like 12 guys, even on Tony Hawk 2, working on it, they could have a lot of fun with it. Yeah. But when Robomotor suddenly made it, it was like, I mean, it was a much bigger deal. Even Tony Hawk Ride, you know, they had like 100 employees. I mean, and the people working on Robomotor as well were all like, almost all that worked for Midway before, you know. So it's, I mean, they were very experienced in their field. So it was definitely more like a commercial product than like a fun project with friends, which Tony Hawk 1 and 2 were, but professionally, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, you know, because I never really did too much homework on Robomoto as a company. I just remember when Tony Hawk Ride got announced, it was like a new company, and they were like, you know, starting. They were like originally making like mobile games.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and so I just remember, I think like the last Midway game I played, I think it was a pro wrestling game called TNA Impact. I don't know if you ever.
Right, yeah.
Impact. So it was like a thing where like I just remember they had Ride and Shred, and then some time went out, you know, because Shred had like the sales that Shred had.
They were not good. Yeah.
You know, it kind of canceled out a lot of possibilities, and then we got the HD remake or the announcement, and I thought that was definitely going to be something cool, you know, because how did you feel about the HD remake, man? Did you?
I thought it was really cool. I remember like being on. I remember being on a THPS forum the day it was announced, and it's funny that at that time it felt like, whoa, something new is happening with Tony Hawk franchise finally. And it was like 2 years ago since, you know, we had Shred. It's kind of funny. You feel, obviously, you know, you were young. I was way younger, and, you know, time was definitely moving much slower than it does now. Now it's way too fast.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was stoked. But then, you know, first there was the whole Xbox announcement that it wasn't going to be out for another month on the PlayStation 3.
Yeah.
Then when I think when I finally got my hands around it, it just didn't feel the same, and it's hard to describe what exactly it is. But I mean, the game looks great and stuff. It's just that the physics it just doesn't work with the Unreal Engine 3 that they use. Everything just kind of feels sloppy, and it just doesn't feel right. And it's a shame because, like I said, I think graphically and like visually, just like Project 8, I think it's a very impressive game. They did some real cool stuff with the levels, even with the Tony Hawk 3 levels. But, you know, it just didn't cut it because of the whole, like, you know, for example, revert. I mean, they didn't even program the thing that made you, after a while, after doing 4 reverts, you would actually end up going much slower. They didn't even program that in, so you could just do an endless amount of reverts and, like, not ever slowing down. I kind of feel there were a lot of those things that they missed, but also I understand that, you know, they were doing a low budget game. I mean, this was way before the huge following of the Tony Hawk games happened, which it is now.
Yeah.
So I understand they had a very low budget, they had very limited resources, you know, and that's why they kind of just ended up doing 7 levels, you know, but I was excited for that for sure. I mean, it was fun to see a Tony Hawk game. Then obviously, I guess your next question is about Tony Hawk 5. You know, that happened, and that was a whole different story.
Yeah, that was I feel like, you know, because, you know, everybody read like the press releases, you know, like, you know, it was, you know, his contract was coming up with Activision, and everyone, you know, understood it as like, oh, they were just making that to get something out. But you know, you were kind of closer to the situation, like, you know, when they dropped Tony Hawk 5, like, how were they kind of, you know, trying to go about that? I know, like, in the movie, you mostly just talked to Nevertsoft, Antonio himself.
Yeah.
But, you know, I don't know if you've had any conversations with people at Robomoto or anything like that.
Well, I'm a pretty good friend with Josh Tsui, who is actually the CEO, who was, because Robomoto isn't around anymore.
Yeah.
I'm actually pretty good friends with him. He's also a film director now, and he directed a documentary about Midway. So you know, we keep in touch. You know, I guess what they were kind of, again, it was kind of similar with HD, that it was kind of like, you know, they were given, you know, they did a decent enough job with Tony Hawk's Skater HD to kind of warrant a sequel and work with their previous assets on it. All I know is that I know that originally it was meant to be like a $30 game, and suddenly, like, they just changed the price, like literally in development, like a few months before it was going out, they just changed it. No, we're going to make it a full price game. Yeah. So, I mean, I think the whole thing would be more forgivable if it was a $30 game. Because I don't think it's a game that's obviously bad all the way. I think it tries a lot of good things. Like, I think I said it in a video, one of the last videos I made on my YouTube, which was essentially that it really tries to reinvent the franchise in a way that the first game did, that they're trying to include new people because, you know, it's been whatever, 15 years since first Tony Hawk game. There has been new pro skateboarders. They're trying to include new real life locations, like, you know, the barracks was the opening level. Yeah, they kind of did the same thing.
Which I thought was cool. The barracks skate park, I thought that was actually a phenomenal level. I honestly thought the levels they had in there were pretty cool. You know. Honestly, some of like the more like fantasy levels they had in there, like I remember they had like a space station level or something.
That maybe didn't work as well because they just had a bunch of weird kind of modifiers in there that you didn't even notice. But what I was getting to was that I feel like they had the heart in the right place. They had the right ideas. I think the reason they didn't succeed was because of the gameplay, and also that the people that would mainly play it would be people that aren't necessarily interested in skateboarding, but people that are interested in Tony Hawk games. So it was kind of aimed for the wrong audience in that sense. Like, I think if it was a brand new franchise with brand new skaters, I think it would have been received better. Not well, but definitely way better than that. But because, you know, it's aimed at Tony Hawk fans, now it was suddenly like, oh, you know, first of all, we don't have any of the classic skaters, but, you know, that wasn't their point. Obviously, that's the point of Tony Hawk Skater 1+2, but that's not the point here, you know. So I feel like it was both, like, the game wasn't that great, but it was also mismarketed like crazy. So
Yeah, yeah. I think like how you said that they had their heart in the right place.
Yeah,
I like the concept that they're going with it, but I definitely thought that it was just kind of like it was a lot of new ideas, and they were trying to
yeah,
build off like an older foundation. And
yeah,
I just think when it came down to it, people just didn't get that same drive.
yeah,
Before we hop into the remake or to the newest remake,
yeah.
I want to ask you about like the spin-offs. Did you ever I guess one spin-off that I honestly never played that I'm really curious about, because I know there's a book, the Tony Hawk's Gaming Domination or Skating
Oh yeah,
Domination.
I read that book. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't read that book yet, but that's one thing I need to get on. But did you ever play Motion, man? Did you ever play Tony Hawk Motion? That's one that
No, I didn't, but I remember I do have it because I remember when it came out that I got it like the day. Probably the only guy in the world to ever get it on the day of its release. Just because I was such a Tony Hawk, and that was released in 2008. So that was the only, like, that came out before Ride even.
yeah,
So no, I never. I've only seen videos on YouTube, but it kind of, I guess in a way, it kind of feels like that game they did another spin-off game, Jam Session. I can't remember the name now, but it was a mobile game that I got a review copy for in 2014. And then I gave it a bad review for Icebears4ever, and then they just, didn't release the game at all. It was kind of funny. I kind of felt like I impacted that in a way. So, yeah.
yeah. I thought honestly, American Skateland and Proving Ground on the DS, because I did play those. I thought those were
Yeah.
phenomenal. I thought those were
Yeah.
really really great, and
Oh,
also Downhill Jam. Like Downhill Jam on the DS was cool, but
yeah.
I had Downhill Jam on the Wii, and I just remember like thinking like, you know what, the graphics are, I don't know, I would say GameCube tastic, but they actually look
Yeah.
really good. You know what I'm saying? Like it was obviously not like a main Tony Hawk title, so there was no like big story, but it still even had some personality, like some funny personality to it. Did you ever play Downhill Jam at all?
Yeah, I like that game. It's a really fun game, and I had it on Wii as well, and you could actually put the Wii remote in the Mario Kart steering wheel, so that was pretty fun. Like
Yeah,
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it very much. Obviously, it's not as rich with content as other games, but I really appreciate them, doing, as you probably saw with the documentary, kind of trying out what was their original idea with the Tony Hawk games, because that game was actually made by a lot of people who worked on Neversoft on the first two games, but then, jumped off. And
yeah.
so they started their own company called Supervillain Studios.
Mm.
And a lot of people, and that company was entirely founded by people that worked for Neversoft. And then they, had the offer to work on a Tony Hawk game, and they decided to make it essentially what their original plan was, to make like a kind of top skater clone.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate it now afterward as well, kind of reflecting on it, like, wow, that's really cool. They actually went for it. It's too bad like fans like me didn't appreciate it at the time, but that's really cool, because now obviously I'm much more like, oh, I love new direction. I love when any rapper starts doing punk music or vice versa. But back then I was just like the opposite. Like, no, I wanted it to be just like it was last year.
Yeah, yeah, like for me, Downhill Jam was cool and it was great. And on the Wii, I remember they were announcing it before it came out with like online multiplayer, but at the end of the day, it didn't have any. What it had,
Yeah.
it was like a ghost option. I don't know if you ever like looked into that, but it was like
Yeah, I did, and I think it had online on the DS, but that was it.
it
Because I
did.
remember playing that online. Yeah,
Yeah, that it did. The DS games were really great, and one thing about the DS games is I think even Proving Ground on the DS, those three DS games, Skateland, Downhill Jam, and Proving Ground, I'm pretty sure they were all by Vicarious Visions.
yeah, you're totally right, and all the Game Boy ones as well. So you're totally
Right.
right about that. Yeah,
Yeah. So once I saw that, they had their hand in the remake of 1 and 2.
yeah,
I was actually super optimistic. Once
yeah,
the trailer came out, because obviously the trailer looked fantastic, but I mean, with all due respect, the trailer for HD and Tony Hawk 5 looked fantastic as well.
yeah.
You know
Oh
what I'm saying?
yeah,
So I was like, let's just see what happens when the game comes. And then once I saw
yeah,
that it was Vicarious Visions doing it, I had faith. I just had
yeah.
blind faith, just
That's
knowing that
awesome.
they would have, what I'm saying, success, because they've had success before with Tony Hawk games.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you think about the new remake, man?
No, it's awesome. I mean, like I said, like I said in a YouTube video I actually made for the first time in a very long time. I was like, it's kind of a I mean, it's unbelievable how good it is. I mean, in every sense of the way, like it feels like the old games. I mean, visually it looks amazing. I mean, there's a lot of really fun Easter eggs. They kind of